No matter where you hail from, if you are involved with local government, you know the importance of intermunicipal relationships. In fact, cooperative leagues predate modern statehood by centuries. The principles of cooperation, communication, and collaboration help to form mutual aid, trade, access to roads, and the sharing of knowledge. Those principles are very much alive today in Pennsylvania through the Pennsylvania Association of Councils of Government. PACOG's mission is to improve and strengthen intergovernmental cooperation, communication, and collaboration across the state. Yet, as you'll hear from PACOG's Debbie Grass, the state doesn't always return the favor. Pennsylvania law often doesn't count a COG as local government, which can shut it out of the very grants meant to reward this kind of cooperation. Nevertheless, local governments have taken those principles to new heights, creating capacity, consistency, and continuity across municipal borders. You can see it in shared street sweepers and fire services, interconnected bike networks, regional approaches to stormwater and parks, and even conversations about e-bikes, waste, rising costs, and the everyday challenges managers are trying to solve. PACOG has its state conference coming up September 1st and 2nd in State College. This year's theme is Better Together, and along with a great lineup of sessions, the conference will offer plenty of opportunities for people to meet, share ideas, and learn from one another at the Graduate by Hilton. I sat down with several members of PACOG's board of directors, including Patrick Connors, executive director of South Hills COG outside of Pittsburgh, Ben Estelle, executive director of Center Region Council of Governments, home to State College in Penn State, and Lance Prater, mayor of Portland and a representative of Slate Belt COG on the eastern side of the state. We are also joined by Deborah Grass of Grassroots Solutions, a longtime advocate for PACOG and currently part of its management team. To get us started, Patrick gives us a primer on COGs. Here we go.
1, 2.
So, local government in general is a great mystery for a lot of people, right? And then you throw out terms like council of government and people really have a lot of question marks. But really the core of what a COG is, right, is it's a organization that's built to make the lives of local governments, elected officials, municipal managers easier, right? Our organizations are built to find efficiencies, to build joint programming, to buy joint purchases, joint pieces of equipment, and to share ideas, right? To be the glue that sort of binds a region of communities and a network of communities together. So our particular organization was launched in 1973. So Allegheny County in particular has an interesting history with councils of government. In the 70s and 80s, these organizations were really utilized to distribute federal funds through the Community Development Block Program. And we took the opportunity as an organization to really launch above and beyond just the grant aspect of it, right? To build a really collaborative public safety aspect, right? With our police chiefs group, with our fire chiefs group. We have a really immersive managers group that meets quarterly to talk about the issues and challenges that they face on a daily basis in their offices. We have a public works group, again, to find those issues that are really percolating in our region and to find opportunities to collaborate, whether it's through, the sewer program or whether it's through shared resources. So the organization maybe started with the idea to spread grant funds through the county and really launched into something much more immersive and much more collaborative for our 23 member communities.
Yeah. And I think your council of government is one of the early ones, or at least one that I've always heard about as being very active. It's kind of a dense region, mostly urban and suburban, if that's correct. And also it's varied. So Pennsylvania is known for having very sort of fragmented governments, different sizes, a lack of consistency. So it's interesting to me how you can, people might say, well, that our neighboring municipalities aren't anything like us. They do things completely different. But within your council of government, you are finding ways to, I'm going to just imagine here, benefit from the variation in those sizes and types of government structure.
Yeah, and just to throw another example out there. So my previous role, I served as executive director for the Quaker Valley Council of Governments, also in Allegheny County. And we actually had the smallest community in Allegheny County. You talked about fragmentation, right? And that community had 81 residents, right? So COGs have to be able to represent and work on behalf of communities of 81 people and towns of 40,081 people, right? And it's really just to be an asset for those communities and to make sure that we're making their lives easier. That's the entire goal in my vision for what a COG is. And we try every day just to be there for our communities.
Yeah. I want to go to Ben, who is in the center of Pennsylvania and has, again, a council of government that is renowned. And if you talk a little bit about, Ben, the philosophy there.
Yeah. So while many COGs were brought around bringing our communities together for collaboration, ours is actually a service provider across multiple disciplines. So we have a regional library that we run, regional fire service and emergency management. We do planning work for the entire region, and we are also MPO for the entire county here. We do all of the code work, so anybody who's building anything within the region all comes here for that. But our largest agency is Center Region Parks and Recreation. We maintain and program for 53 different parks across the region. And it allows us to provide a really consistent experience for everybody who lives within the region. It's not just about the cost savings, which there are significant cost savings by having one unit do everything, but the consistency across the board, because most of our residents don't know when they have crossed a border. And we try to keep it that way as far as the experience goes. Everything is kept to the same standard everywhere in the region. And you don't have to worry about trying to find a yoga program in your community, because we might have a yoga program going on 2 communities over that you're more than welcome to join. Same goes for all of our camps, swimming, any of those recreation activities. It's not bound to just a community, so you're not worried about, what's the pricing for my resident versus my neighbors. Everybody can participate in the same thing. Your friendships, the relationships that you have don't care about those municipal boundaries. And so this allows a lot of people to come together and take part in things as a group that having a smaller organization might prevent.
Yeah. I think you might give us some context as well, because I know you have a very important municipality right in the center. Some people may have heard of State College, which is the home of Penn State, and your municipalities, I know they're very diverse, but State College does play kind of an important role. If you might say a few words, I'm thinking of the library in particular, but there are, I'm sure, some other aspects of having it situated really in a pretty rural part of the state, and yet it's a dense population, and at the very center is this State College.
We definitely hit the Pennsylvania variety. We have a dense urban core, which is centered around Penn State University. And so State College Borough sits right there, kind of at the middle. And as you move out, you move into more suburban territory before getting out into truly rural areas. We have many farms right around us. Not very far from our office building, we have a fruit farm, and then there are larger farms beyond that are all within the COG. And it means we do probably a wider variety of things than many would think about. Our fire and emergency management crews are not just trained for parking garage fires and urban rescues, but also in grain silo rescues, because that is just as common for us to experience here as anything else. But yes, we are built around kind of the university territory. All of our communities are in the same school district, which makes things a little bit easier for us. But we have that dense urban core, and then we just continue to move out into that more rural population.
Yeah, I think it's really an interesting organization, Ben, that you lead, and we'll get back to it. A little bit more detail. I want to talk to Lance now. And Lance, I did some little research on your borough, which is Portland Borough, but to talk about the Council of Government, your particular community, I do want to say, is just lovely. But it's small. So tell us a little bit about how you came into the Council of Government and why that is an important organization in your region.
Portland's only 519 people strong. I'm going to say strong because big and small, we have them all. We basically joined the COG, the Slate Belt COG, to share services. When you have 519 people, it's kind of hard to buy a street sweeper with a budget that we have. It's kind of hard to buy a leaf vac. They're all things that everybody needs, but everybody cannot afford. So with the Slate Belt Council of Governments, we could afford all these things just together. And it's a lot better together than by ourselves. If we meaning Portland, were to do it by ourselves, we would tax ourselves right out of the state. We'd be part of New Jersey, which is only about 500 yards away from where I sit.
Debbie and I were talking a little bit before the show, and I think this is true for all of you, but I want to ask you in particular, Lance, there is also just the ability to have conversations between municipalities. How many times I have worked with municipalities across the state who say, basically, that municipality next door does things entirely differently. We don't really talk to them. That is a common refrain, maybe less so these days. Hopefully that's changed. But I do think there is within the framework of your Council of Government, it might be very important to you just to bring people together to talk about things.
Every COG meeting that we have is almost like homecoming. We see everybody, we talk to everybody in our different municipalities usually on a daily basis. There's 10 different municipalities. Together, total, we're about 36,000 people, which is peanuts compared to Ben and Patrick's COG, but it works really well here in the Slate Belt and for us. And no matter what happens in each municipality, whether it's recycling or it's a fire siren going off, we all deal with the same complaints, the same, hey, that's really good with your municipality. That's terrible. Why don't you come on board with the COG and see what we could do together? And I keep on saying together because I said this before. I'm a dad of 2 daughters, and they used to love the Zac Efron with the basketball one where, they were all happy together at the end. So it's true.
It's a great image. And if I had my, dream, do one thing, I would love for residents to have like a little checklist when they're going and looking for a place to live. I know I've had that advantage through my life at different places I've lived. I know what questions to ask, what to look for in a community. And a lot of times the very obvious things that we look for are not the things that really matter. And when you are investing in a community that's also associated with the Council of Government, you probably have better risk management overall. You have mutual cooperation relationships. You have a greater confidence or security that there is a government that's functioning well with neighbors. That's a way that I think about it.
We try to get along. Again, we try because everybody has a different character, different personality that some people you just look at and you don't like right off the bat. Other people, you want to invite them home for Sunday dinner. Through the COG, though, we've also have a regional comp plan that we just finished. And right now we're working on a regional zoning plan, which for 10 municipalities is big on this part of the state.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Well, I want to talk a little bit more specifically about what municipalities gain. And I'll start with Patrick. And if you could tell just a little bit more of your story there that might help us understand what it means to be a member of your Council of Government.
Yeah, so I'm relatively new to this role, but the COG world I've been involved with for about 5 years, but I started this particular role in January, right? So what I really have tried to do this first 6 or 7 months is just understand what the communities have utilized the organization for previously and how we're going to take that moving forward, right? So one thing I do every month, I actually just hit send about 15 minutes ago, is I put a report together once a month and I send it to our managers group. So it's just a highlight of what's going on for the month of August or the month of July and so on for the organization. COGs aren't necessarily at the forefront of a lot of our elected officials and a lot of our community representatives. And we want to make sure that it's easy to digest and we're there present, we're communicating with them. So that's one thing I've tried to do. The other thing is I'm on the SHACOG World Tour, right? So once or twice a month, I try to go out to a member community and just sit in their meeting, right? Sometimes they're like, hey, tell us what's going on in SHACOG. So I'll give them a 5-10 minute soliloquy on what's going on in the organization. But really, I just sit there, right? And some of these meetings might be an hour, some might be 3 hours, and you just sit there and listen because you don't really know how we can best serve them if you don't know what's going on in that community. And you see some common through lines, again, big and small and everything in between, but you see the similarities between those different meetings. So really just trying to listen and learn and then take what I hear and then put those in our working groups and then build plans for the future for SHACOG. We actually just purchased a sewer camera truck that 5 communities out of our 23 utilize. These might be smaller communities or communities that might not have the resources to purchase a truck on their own or the need to use a truck year round. But those 5 communities can share an expert driver, an expert operator, and that brand new piece of equipment through a scheduling process that goes through our office. So just like that's just one small example. Joint bidding, right? We're going through a salt bid right now where, it's a lot of work to put those specifications together for rock salt. And we all know this past winter was pretty brutal, right? Across the state. And because we do that for our 23 communities and more, we actually have a purchasing alliance that encompasses most of Allegheny County and parts of Butler County. That purchasing alliance writes the bid on behalf of those communities. We open the bid, take care of all the advertising, and then hopefully we get a really good competitive price that those communities can utilize. So just small little things like that where we're all working and rowing in the same direction.
Yeah. Those are challenges that are very real and they impact the bottom line. I wonder if there's a challenge that you could talk about that is less tangible, maybe just one that if I'm a small municipality, maybe I'm the manager there and I'm like, I have no idea how we're going to tackle this challenge. It's not just about me. It's a larger question. Is there a challenge in particular that you see kind of bubbling up or maybe just amongst the managers that, that is a significant one that you might be able to share that you can see where the Council of Government is going to be an effective place to have some important conversations?
Yeah. So you said like sort of the intangible of what a COG does, right? So the communities are different, but they're same at the same time. So something that I'm seeing popping up a lot at our managers meetings, at our police chiefs meetings, even our public works meetings are e-bikes, right? Kids riding around with these motorized electric bikes through parks and through the streets and not really following the rules set forth in communities. And this is probably happening across the state and across the country, right? But they're able to meet, or, somebody in community A might think, wow, our community, this is really a big deal. We need to fix this. But community B across the street or across, the county might be writing an ordinance that they've already had approved, had vetted through their solicitor, and they're ready to implement. So if these issues are popping up in these meetings, that's the opportunity for these communities to share ideas. There's nothing new in local government, right? We're all sort of taking and sharing and stealing from each other as far as legislation and as far as zoning ordinances and codifications. So those times where we meet once a quarter or once a month or once every other month, we can share ideas, share resources, and make sure that we're not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah. Thank you, Patrick. And I mean, if there's any other comments that people want to jump in on, what I just want to say is that from a resident standpoint too, like the e-bikes is a good example. I'm going to be zipping around and going in between municipalities. It's great if I can just sort of understand the ground rules, how they apply across municipalities, as opposed to having kind of a patchwork approach to. I'm going to move to you, Ben, but anyone else that wants to react to that?
I think it's probably a really nice introduction to some of the things we've been able to do at the Center Region COG. Because we have the regional planning agency, all of our municipalities have planned their build outs with us at the center of that operation. And so as bike paths were being developed and as new communities were being developed, all of those municipalities worked together to create one bike ped network throughout the entire region. So it doesn't matter which community you are starting in, there is a bike path to get you into the other communities, to get you to central resources. And they all kind of followed the same game plan on that. And they still to this day, as new communities, new neighborhoods are being built, they're all brought into that same network and everybody has the same requirements that these bike paths get built and connected. It's not just build a path through the neighborhood. It's build a path that goes from somewhere and connects to existing infrastructure so that it makes for a full network. And that's kind of the long-term hope that you get from this kind of intermunicipal cooperation.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting in the Center Region Council of Governments. You've mentioned that the parks and recreation is a very important piece of this. And I understand just from what little I know that it's an evolving conversation. And I think this is, just the idea that sometimes conflict is very important in organizations because it really gets at the tension points. If you weren't allowed to talk about that, you would never know where those tension points are and you could never engage in solutions or ways forward. And so, for instance, in your parks, I can remember that in my conversations, that people have different ideas about, park fees and who should pay for what. And I don't know if there's some other, sort of conversations that you can share that, again, are important conversations, but really get to the heart of this desire for continuity. But at the same time, from a manager standpoint, leader standpoint, you're trying to work through if you call it a fairness standard.
There are aspects about our cooperation that sometimes conflicts with other pieces of it at times. Our COG was built really in silos for each of my agencies. They were developed on their own with just one person on top. And then we grew so large that I have an entire admin office here. I have multiple people in HR and finance who help to manage our day-to-day operations. But at times, those things that we've put in place in one area come back to make life more difficult for us elsewhere. And the Center Region is one of, I think, only 2 places in Pennsylvania that has a growth boundary to it, where we have said we don't want sprawl. And so we want all the growth to happen in a confined area with a prescribed path for expanding that. And to help maintain it, we've tied it to our sewer service area. So sewer service won't be provided if you build outside of this boundary line, which means you can't have large-scale development because of all of the sewerage requirements through the state. That has now, caused a conflict in one of our regional parks where we hoped to build a bathroom facility for that regional park in one of our communities, but it sits outside of the sewer service area. And so we're stuck trying to come up with, one, we can't just exempt ourselves from our own rules on things. That's not fair to everybody else around. But we also want to provide a very similar experience in every park that you might go to. And so it does require some creativity at times and forces us to think differently about how we provide services. In this case, we're very likely going to be bringing in what they call luxury trailer bathrooms. We'll have custom built bathroom trailers that are typically used for weddings in remote sites. And we will have those brought in on site and then they get pumped out on a regular basis. But they will provide running water, the same general nice bathroom experience that you get anywhere else. But we've found a different way to provide that service in the one park that sits outside of that boundary. So it's, government creating its own problems in some ways where we have this restriction that we're putting on ourselves, but also allowing us to find creative solutions to still provide that consistency to our communities.
Are there any other challenges that come to your mind, Ben, that would help us understand some of the benefits of the Council of Government form?
Yeah, there are always challenges that come up, and we have a monthly managers breakfast that the COG hosts. So representatives from each of our communities show up. We also invite a representative from the school district, from some other neighboring communities who actually aren't a part of the COG, but are so close to us that we want their feedback. We invite the utility directors. So we have a couple different water districts, sewer districts. They're all invited to the breakfast. And we set the agenda together. So if anybody has an issue, they send that in. My staff puts an agenda together. And then once a month, we get together and hash that all out. And the same goes on with our elected officials. We have multiple committees that meet on a monthly basis here in our facility. And they talk through every issue that you can imagine that comes up. By the time we get to our general forum meeting, most of the business should have already been handled because of the extensive committee structures that we have. So any problem that a municipality might come up with, that they might find, we're finding solutions on together, or finding research projects to put one of my agencies onto to find solutions for the future. Trying to think of something specific recently, we're often dealing with pricing issues. We have some communities that are wealthier than others. And so when you're looking at any new purchasing from the COG, we have to try to find a fair solution that does not overwhelm our smaller communities in them. And so we might have to be a little more practical than what some would want us to be at times. We have a fleet of plug-in hybrid vehicles for my code agency. We are trying new things on a regular basis, but when those costs outweigh the possible benefits of those, we really have to be careful that we don't push things too far to be fair to all of our members, not just the ones who have larger budgets.
That's great. What resonates with you, what you're hearing, Lance? Are there some differences in the kinds of challenges that you are discussing at your meetings?
I think Pat and Ben basically summed it up, and I'm going to sum it up even quicker and faster. It's think globally, but act locally. You have to start at a local level. I got involved with the COG basically because I was not happy with the way the politics in the area were running. So I started with the COG. But the same issues that Ben and Patrick have, it still affects the Slate Belt Council of Governments the same way. And if you think globally, like the PA COG, I'm learning so much just from this podcast alone that I'm going to take a road trip. Ben and Patrick, I'm going to knock on your door one day unannounced just to see what's going on and to pal around with you guys for the day and see exactly what we could grow. And that's what it's basically all about, is bouncing ideas off of each other. You know, again, 36,000 people compared to what Ben's talking about with electric vehicle fleets. And I don't even think there's 3 electric vehicles in the Slate Belt. So to me, that's, wow, you have a fleet of electric vehicles? We're still using fossil fuels.
Lance, I want to talk to you more. You just gave a perfect opening for Debbie. And I wanted to have her a little earlier in the show. And she, I think, must have gotten caught up in a call, or maybe you got bounced out. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I had some technical difficulties. I apologize to everyone.
It's okay.
But this is a great
Good
opportunity
opening.
to talk about PayCog, because we are a resource for COGs. Basically, PayCog, Pennsylvania Councils of Government, is set up as a nonprofit to provide support, technical assistance, and to identify resources for COGs. As you can see from our panelists, they come in all sizes and all makeups and all types of services and programs. What we try to do is bring the conversation together, provide a platform for all of the COGs to kind of share ideas. And we provide, educational opportunities through our webinars. We have a website that has a bunch of library resources. If you're looking for a ordinance that, addresses regional police services, we've got it. If you're looking for agreements or things that are work for your COG and your communities, we've got it in our library. And so I think that having a statewide organization that can work with all of the councils of governments across the Commonwealth and provide them some resources and a platform for talking about mutual challenges and ways to do things. And like Lance said, we learn from each other. I learn something from every webinar that we put on and every webinar that we attend, because we're constantly learning from each other. And there's new things that we have to face as local government professionals regularly that we never faced before, like cyber attacks and, AI and things like that, policies for AI. So yeah, PayCog, what we want to be is the premier resource, the go-to organization for councils of government to promote that collaboration and cooperation because the regional approach is always better. The e-bikes don't stop at the border. Stormwater doesn't stop at the borders. The planning and development, it all crosses the borders. So It's much
You're
better.
not going to get any arguments on that, Debbie, but like I do want you to say a couple words about number one, we also know how difficult it is. So that all the more makes the PACOG such an important entity. And you might talk about, is it a matter of PR? I mean, you guys run a very lean organization, and yet we hear at the state level that there is a desire for more regional cooperation. We hear this a lot, that this would be better for everyone. Why does it not get more attention at the state level?
That's a great question. And I would invite, some of the panelists to actually respond to that. But I think that for some reason, COGs are not considered local government. So what we find is that in a lot of the legislation, they're not eligible applicants for grants. They're not eligible applicants for programs. Our goal at PACOG is to change that, is to elevate our profile into, as I said, be the go-to organization. I'm not sure over the years why PACOG didn't get more attention and why the COGs have struggled, but I think it's important from an education perspective to have the state officials, our corporate sponsors, our affiliate members to understand, what we do, how we do it, and how we can be such a good resource for everyone.
Yeah. I want to go back to Lance because, he said it would be great, like just to go visit these other councils of government. And I've got to think that your conference that's coming up, we're going to talk about in a moment, but is a great opportunity to have those conversations. What do you think, Lance? I mean, what do you hope to get out of the conference?
Like I said with Slate Belt, it's like homecoming, but going to the PA conference, COG conference, is like a super homecoming. It's like a Thanksgiving Day football game conference. For the longest time, I only saw people's faces. But it's really nice to get out and handshake and to realize the compassion and that everybody has with PACOG. I could go to a bigger COG, or they could look at the smaller COG, like Slate Belt COG, and say, you got 10 municipalities. How do you do an animal control officer with 10 municipalities? Which didn't work for us, by the way, but I had to throw it out. But it's learning and sharing with each other that makes it all worthwhile. The resource library is just fantastic that we have. When we do our Council of Government, Slate Belt Council of Government meetings, the PACOG website is up in the background. We have that up in case anybody wants to ask questions about PACOG, or if they want to look up something, we'll say for data centers, which is a very hot topic right now. It's learning, sharing, getting together.
Absolutely. Oh, data centers. Phew, that's a hot button one. Well, let me just, So Patrick and Ben, jump in here. Lance is talking about compassion here. Is this something that is different from maybe what you feel when you go to, maybe you've been to some of the other statewide conferences? I mean, that where there's not necessarily a focus on sharing or focus on collaboration. What's your take on what Lance has to say?
Ben, you want to start us off?
Sure. I think, most municipalities across the Commonwealth would find value in this conference and what we're doing. Even those who do not yet have a COG, because COGs are not everywhere in PA. It's something that exists across the nation, but in pockets. Allegheny County was one of the only places where the county set out to say, yes, we're going to have COGs all around for a specific purpose. And they've each kind of changed over time. But the rest of Pennsylvania doesn't necessarily have them, or they all have different missions. There's nothing in the state regulations that say as a COG, you must do this or you must be this thing. We all have very different missions, but we all have the ability to be anything that any of the others are. And so seeing the depth of services and opportunities that come from our organizations would be helpful to anybody in Pennsylvania who wants to save money, provide better services, provide more consistent services, or just explore services that you didn't know were possible from local government entities. And certainly, this would also be incredibly valuable for anybody who values those shared services, which is more and more coming to the forefront in other conferences. The Municipal League just asked me to put together a panel for their upcoming summit on shared services. So others are thinking about this, but it has not received the attention that it should have in the past.
Yeah, I'd sort of want to piggyback on that point where sometimes with these annual conferences, it's easy to get lost in the same old notions, right? But this organization and this conference is so new where we can really make it what we want it to be, right? This is only our second annual conference in this revamped, relaunched PACOG organization. So I think that's a huge opportunity for us. And sort of the audience that I think would be really beneficial for us, not just the communities themselves, but a lot of our statewide organizations and vendors, right? It's easy to get lost in our silos in Allegheny County or in Center County or, in the Philadelphia kind of suburbs, Northeast, all across, the state. It's easy to get siloed, but a lot of our engineering firms and a lot of our, solicitors and a lot of our, private entities, they have a statewide presence. And this could be an opportunity for us to engage with them at a statewide level and talk as a state, not just a county, not just as a municipality, not just as a couple communities that maybe have a new cable, expansion in their community or a new opportunity to discuss data centers, right? This could be an opportunity for us to have that statewide discussion, that statewide presence. And not only just, our private sector partners and our agency partners, but our elected officials. This could be an opportunity for a state senator or an elected official to come and talk to basically all of their territory at once, right?
Yeah.
The legislation that they're discussing in Harrisburg has a real impact. And instead of going to one community event and talking to an elected officials group of 7 or 8 people, they can talk to 20, 30, 40, 50 communities with someone that represents those communities all at once. So I feel like those are 2 real opportunities for us to really bring this statewide approach. Just like what we're doing as a regional approach, we don't want to just be stuck in our one community idea. The PACOG organization has an opportunity to take COGS and municipal governance to that statewide level.
Yeah. I like your aspirational approach to this. And I think that is responding back to the earlier question that I asked Debbie about why is there not maybe more attention to PACOG and some of the great things that's done at the councils of governments. I'll just say personally that the leaders of these councils of governments are all impressive to me. And I think it represents a perspective and an experience that is so needed for any, particularly new managers coming up. There's just so much to be learned from engaging with the councils of government. I wonder if there's anything that you might address that if you've talked to municipalities to join your council of government and they've resisted, what is that point of resistance? I was thinking about sort of the individual cultures and ways of doing things. And do people feel they're going to lose their individuality as a community if they join?
Yeah, I can give you an example. So this isn't my current position, but the previous position in the Quaker Valley Council of Governments, we had 15 member communities for quite a while. And there was 2 communities, because Allegheny County, for the most part, I think there might be 3 or 4 municipalities out of the 130 or so communities that aren't a part of a COG, right? So there's few and far between. Most of the communities are a part of one of the 7 COGs in Allegheny County. But for the Quaker Valley COG, there was 2 communities that were sort of gobbled up by our footprint. And I was the executive director there for 4 years or so at the time. And for whatever reason, they just weren't part of the COG. And this is an organization that was around for 40 plus years. And no one really knew why. That was just the way it is. Those community A and community B just weren't part of the COG. So it just took that first conversation and that opportunity to sort of sell what a COG is. And maybe that conversation happened 20 years ago, but those elected officials and those managers and that culture of leadership is gone, right? And there's probably been 5 or 6 new renditions of that same group of people that didn't have that opportunity to hear what a COG is, what the Quaker Valley COG is. So it just took that introduction where I spoke to community A, right? And I said, hey, this is what we do. This is what we've done for our other 15 member communities. I think it would be a really great fit if you guys were interested in joining up. Got community A, right? Now we're up to 16 communities. And then all of a sudden we get in front of community B and we have that same opportunity, right? So in 1 year, we got 2 new members that were really part of that continual footprint of our COG. And it just took that introduction from an elected official from a different community to introduce us to them. So I really think, it's the word of mouth. It's having that opportunity to sell yourself without sounding like a salesman, right? I didn't want to be that first point of contact because that just sounds like I'm out to get your money and get your dues, and I'm not looking out for your best interest. But if that introduction happens from a fellow borough council person or a township supervisor from a neighboring community, where they can sell, hey, we joined this cooperative and it was great, and this is why. And then we have our opportunity as executive directors to go in there and close the deal. So, we're not really in this footprint in Allegheny County. We can't grow unless we're taking from others, right? Unless people are leaving another cog to come to our cog. But for those areas of the state that have an opportunity to bring people together, it's really that word of mouth. And that I think having other elected officials and community leaders sell the idea, not us, but them.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, that's interesting.
Sometimes it's perceived politics.
Yes.
Certain areas are viewed as, the Democratic areas versus the Republican areas. And that happens a good bit. We also have the viewed as urban versus rural. And so there's this long history of just viewing it as not wanting to be sucked up into the Penn State bubble. But when the opportunities come up that one of them is interested in something, we don't have to be a full package of services. We can offer services from any one of our agencies individually if it makes sense. And some of those outside municipalities have taken us up on that. One of them joined our garbage contract recently. Some are part of our code program, and they have joined that. And so they're getting the experience now of seeing just what we can do and how cheaply we can do it for them. Code is the biggest no-brainer out there. There are no municipal costs to it. It's been self-funded for decades now. So we don't ask anything from you other than you adopt our schedules for things, and that's what anybody building in your area pays.
So it's kind of an incremental approach. You're suggesting that that's a very interesting idea.
It's necessary for us as an organization because your community wants to join us doesn't mean that I necessarily have the capacity right now. And if you can't bring enough need for me to expand my capacity, it's not worth it for us as an organization to take on another member. Now, if you speak to Patrick and the two of you together want to come in, you do constitute enough of a capacity increase that I can bring on extra staff, extra equipment to then take care of you. In areas where I have spare capacity, we're happy to help out right away. But we also have to think about it from the cost perspective. And if I can't provide the service to you at the same rate that I'm already serving it, then it's not worth it for either of us.
Well said. Lance, anything that you want to add to that? We're kind of wrapping up here, and I have just a couple. I do want to get to the conference question, and I feel a little like I've been in an Agatha Christie, and then there was none. We've lost Lance. We've lost Debbie. Hopefully she's going to log back on. But I also want to wrap up today with asking, you all what you're looking forward to at the conference. So you can be thinking about that. There she is. But I want to give Lance an opportunity to respond. Some people, they resist. Why do they resist? And what would you say to them?
I think a lot of people don't understand what a cog is or what a cog does. And I feel that our senators and our representatives on state level don't understand what cogs are either. So having the backing or the forwarding of coming up with new words as I speak of the PACOG is great because we have a platform, we as in the state, to broadcast and what does a cog do and why are they so important to us? And I think a lot of people, even locally, I could walk down the street and ask somebody if they know what a cog is. And right away, I'll get, the Spacely Sprocket answer from the Jetsons from 60 years ago. But that's not what it is. And we actually came up with little cards. They say Slate Belt Council of Government. And on the back is what it is and what it says and does, which any given day I go through 100 of them because people don't know what it is. But I have the 2-minute elevator talk, not only for Slate Belt Council of Governments, but also for PACOG. So it's, again, not what the PACOG could do for you, but what can you do for the PACOG? What can you do for Slate Belt Council of Governments? Ben, Patrick, Debbie, you have our name. It's on your website, but it's up to us locally to make our COG better. And that's how I feel being globally with the PACOG. But I think we need to get our name out more. And I'm not going to say market, but for the lack of a better word, unless I come up with one in a couple seconds, it's marketing the PACOG.
Yeah. I really think that your PACOG is a very important showcase of leadership. And Debbie, before you sneak off again, I know you don't mean to, but we want to grab you give us a sense of what people can look forward to at the conference coming up and where it's at.
We're very, very excited. The conference is coming up September 1st and 2nd. It's in State College, one of our favorite places. It's at the Graduate by Hilton, which for anyone who's a Penn State grad will be excited to see all of the Nittany Lions and other things that are associated with the Graduate. We're really excited about the programming. Our theme this year is We're Better Together. And we are really focused on shared services and things that we can do that elevate our COG members and provide better services, better quality services for their municipal members. We have a session on public safety, regional public safety, that Ben's going to participate in, having to do with fire, police, emergency medical services, and how we can do those on a regional basis. We have a session on waste, which doesn't, seem very exciting, but trying to deal with the rising costs of waste and recycling and all of those things has been a challenge for municipalities. That one's called Trash Talk. I love that one. And Patrick's going to be on a panel where we talk about something that we don't think about that often, which is cable TV franchising and what that means for municipalities and the changing landscape as streaming services rise and actual cable becomes more difficult to tie down and really understand. So we've got a lot of really interesting. We also have some fun. We're going to be doing speed networking. We have a reception for our members. And again, that's an opportunity to network and really understand and meet other COG directors and figure out what everyone's doing. And I'm going to give you a shout out, Nancy. We have a special feature at our COG that we are excited about called Create the Organization You Want to Lead. And I think that is a topic, not just for COG directors and delegates, but for municipal leaders everywhere who want to create capacity and get, sharpen their leadership tools. So we're excited about your session, and we'll be really calling that out across to all of our members. And I guess I want to emphasize that this isn't just for our members or just for COGs. This is for local government professionals everywhere who are interested in really elevating the quality of their services and trying to look at different ways to provide those in an age of, cost containment and trying to figure out revenues. So I think this is especially our sessions this year around financial management, billing services. They're just really great sessions for anyone who's in local government. And we really encourage people to attend.
I am very excited to be there, Debbie. I can tell you that. So in a quick roundup, everyone, I'd like to know, what is it you're most excited about in getting together in State College and what you hope to get out of it? And Ben, I'm going to start with you.
Certainly. I enjoy presenting what we do here. We are one of the largest COGs in the country, and so it's always a great opportunity to share what we do, how we do it. We try to teach as much as anything to get others to see the benefits that we have enjoyed here. And certainly we're learning all the time as well from our fellow COGs, but we also see it as a really important aspect of what we do, that we push what we have been able to accomplish and share that with others when we have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah. Thank you for your leadership, Ben. You guys do push the envelope there, and that's great. I love that. And what do you think, Lance? What are you most excited about with the upcoming conference?
I'm looking forward to having the homecoming Thanksgiving Day parade, gathering of the PACOG all together once again. Instead of just seeing faces on a computer screen, you could reach out and touch somebody. It's an AT&T thing, but it's nice to shake a hand or give somebody a hug. And it's family that you don't see every day.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Lance. I know your community must really benefit from your care and your outreach and your words. You're a great speaker on community. And so I look forward to meeting you in person personally.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to go right across the screen. Debbie, what are you most excited about with the conference?
Just the passion that everyone brings and getting to get together, as Lance said, and see everyone in person. Because we're statewide, most of the time we're virtual, so we don't get to really sit down with each other, share a cocktail, have a conversation. So I'm really excited about that. Excited for our sponsors too. I have to give a shout out. We have wonderful sponsors like Campbell Durant Law and the Delaware Valley Trust, and we couldn't do this conference without them, and they have really stepped up, Pliget and some of the others. But we just love our sponsors and our exhibitors too. So I'm going to give a shout out to them.
Great, Debbie. And it's going to be good to see you. It's been a long time. We've known each other for many decades. Thank you so much for bringing this group together. And Patrick, we're going to close with you. Thank you for you are such an important cog in South Hills of Pennsylvania. And what is it that you're most looking forward to with your trip to State College for this conference?
Yeah, I just want to echo what everyone else said. I mean, this is an opportunity for us to all engage in person. Our organization's meetings or board meetings are typically on Zoom. So this is that one time a year where we all get together. We can see each other face to face and really have those communications that are hard to do on a screen, right? And it's a great part of the state. It's an area of the state I don't get to a whole lot. So it's a really great opportunity to see a different part of Pennsylvania. State College is great. It's a beautiful campus. So I think it's going to be a really great event and hoping to see a lot of new faces this year and see a lot of familiar faces at the same time. So look forward to it.
Yeah, great. Thank you all so much. This was a lot of fun. I'm going to let you get back to your busy lives, and I'm glad we could take this break to have this conversation today. It's been really valuable.
And Nancy, thank you.
Nancy.
We really appreciate you joining us for the conference and also hosting us today. So we really thank you for that.
It is my pleasure. We'll see you all soon.
Excellent.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
1, 2.